or deleting records that are subject to access to information requests a breach of the Act? And do your preliminary findings suggest that the law was broken in this case?
With respect to ArriveCan, I'm sorry, but I won't be able to talk to you about the investigation. It's still ongoing. This is a very complex investigation, and as you just mentioned, including very serious allegations. So my office, it's part of our priority this year to finalize that investigation, and I will be happy to report on that investigation later this year. With respect to the allegation of destructions, it is a criminal act if it's intentional and if it's meant to remove the information from somebody's accessing it. So I cannot tell you at this point what our findings are with respect to ArriveCan.
In your 2024-2025 report, you said that nearly 30% of requests across government missed legislated timelines in the previous year. In plain terms, does missing the deadline on almost a third of requests mean that the government, writ large, is failing to adhere to the law?
It is.
And what do you think is the remedy that's needed?
Well, currently the Act is requiring institutions to respond within 30 days of an access request or to ask for an extension. 30% or 33% of these requests are not being, that timeline is not being met. There's all kinds of factors. Consultations with other institutions taking way too long is one of them. Mismanagement of information and resulting in huge size of access and documents having to be processed is another one. There's a lot that needs to be done to the system, as I said in my submission in 2020, a lot to be done to this Act to modernize it. Reducing consultations to a certain amount of time would be one of the way to reduce timelines as well.
I think you said that the government's plan for modernization is not sufficient. I think those were your words. But on the stick that might need to be used here, because I don't think that there's any amount of carrots that would move the needle. What do peer countries do? What is the harshest or most effective measure that's used for compliance in other countries? Are we an outlier here? It seems extraordinary to have a government that seems to be flouting this very important law.
Unfortunately, I've met with other colleagues from around the world, and we're not the only one having issues implementing the Act. Whether or not we have a good, perfect Act, it's in the implementation that really we can see if a country is doing well. Sanctioning public servants is not happening in any other countries because it's really difficult to know which person is responsible ultimately for the decisions.
The buck stops with the minister at the end of the day.
That's what I think.
Chair, Commissioner, to be clear, your orders are legally binding, correct?
They are.
Now, you had indicated, and your report outlines that non-compliance on the part of government departments and institutions has been an issue. So those government departments and institutions that are not abiding by your orders are breaking the law, are they not?
Well, if they are challenging them in courts, they're not. They are allowed to challenge it, but if they're not challenging them and they're not respecting them, they are breaking the law. And
there are government departments and institutions that have chosen to ignore your orders and therefore are breaking the law.
It was an issue at the beginning. It seems to be less of an issue now. I think people understood that we now have been using the amendments application to force them into it.
Now, you indicated in answer to Mr. Barrett that your office has been forced to bring not one, not two, but 8 applications for writs of mandamus to force non-compliant law-breaking departments and institutions to abide by the law. Now, going to federal court is costly, it's resource intensive, is it not?
It is.
And so can you provide a number, a figure, or provide some description of the degree in terms of, from a resource standpoint, your office has incurred in order to effectively drag government departments and institutions kicking and screaming to comply with your lawful order?
Well, currently the Act doesn't make me monitor these decisions and these orders. But if somebody complains to my office that the order was missed, the only recourse that I have currently is to make an application for mandamus, which we've done. We have increased our number of litigators in terms of cost. It's salaries, and time for us. And sadly, in a sense, it's time for the requesters as well, because so far none of these mandamus applications have made it to a hearing. The institutions have always responded before we were able to get a judge to listen to our application. So basically, it's been just extra time to the institutions to respond.
But it's fair to say it is resource intensive.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. And on March 7th, 2025, you wrote to then President of the Treasury Board, Jeanette Pettipas-Taylor, expressing concern about this pattern of non-compliance, and had requested that the minister issue clear and unequivocal guidance to institutions subject to the Act of their legal responsibilities, including complying with your orders. Did the minister issue such guidance?
She did.
She did. Okay, thank you for that. Now, is it fair to say that your office faces a persistent and severe funding shortfall?
Well, this year we were looking at a deficit of $600,000 based on the collective agreement that were negotiated and for which money that we didn't receive. But because of the review that the government has launched, we've decided to absorb that deficit. And we're not, I can't say that we're in a situation where we don't have sufficient funds, but we are definitely just enough to, we're managing our resources as best as we can based on the current situation in the government.
Thank you. And in 2024, you had submitted an on-site proposal to the Minister of Justice requesting $400,000 in permanent funding to maintain current resource levels. What happened with your request?
It didn't go anywhere.
The minister did not respond?
The ministers did not respond, no.
Okay. Shifting back to your orders for the right to go to the federal court for a review for those departments and institutions that apply for a review, the standard at the federal court is de novo, of a de novo nature. Now, your predecessor, Suzanne Legault, stated that there was, quote, no incentive for institutions to provide sufficient reasons to establish that information warrants not being disclosed during investigations, and for those reasons recommended removing the de novo standard. Do you agree?
Quick response, please.
It's a very tough questions because there's positive and negative on both judicial review and de novo review, and I would be happy to provide you some submissions in writing if you want on that.
Or maybe there will be another round. Maybe we can come back to it.